Welcome. I've got my coffee. Let's watch some stuff.
I know there's a lot of people out there that they might watch my video and they say, well, this was built by a man, that's how they all looked. All these old buildings, they all look the same, they were Victorian, they were the Beaux Art style, the Nouveau, or, they were Baroque art, or they were made by the French. So many different things, right? There's so many different styles of art that these could be called. And a lot of times they're called different things, even if it's the same different building, But when we look at this, all of these buildings around the entire world and every country and city, they all look very similar. I mean, very, very similar. And as you'll see it in these pictures of Columbus, Ohio, I mean, besides these grand archways and the train stations and the hospitals and whatnot, you're going to see a lot of pictures of asylums, okay? School for the blind, the mentally ill, whatever. They all look like castles. I mean, just unbelievable, ridiculous sized castles. And this is, this is our asylums, These are the banks. These are banks that we had in the 1800s, right? I mean, look at this. These people had horses. Even their trolleys, they were being pulled by horses. And it's all dirt, right? But look at these buildings. I mean, you have to get this granite here. You have to transport it. And you're talking millions of pounds of granite for even, a few of these buildings. That's thousands of trips by horse. And people have to dig the granite and quarry it. I mean, there is so much involved. Some of these buildings have thousands of panes of glass. Okay, there was no big glass makers even around at the time in a lot of these places. But just look at these buildings. This is not built by us. This is Tartarian architecture. It is everywhere in every city in the world. And you tell me a city and I'll find it.
I really like what I've been learning about the Tartarians lately, how a lot of our architecture is the same across the world. Well, not the same, but very, very similar. And it's well beyond the advancements that we are taught that we had of that time period. But it just blows my mind, the similarities. Now, to have totally washed them out of our history and education systems, I don't know why, unless it has something to do with control. Maybe they found a way to monetize a little bit better, and that's why governments are like, nope, get rid of this, erase all of this evidence. It's really mind-boggling that there's a possibility that there's a lot of history that's just got rid of it.
Dada, you have one picture, Dada, please.
Stop pushing, boys.
Dada, for 8 days, can I have one picture, please?
Wow. Boys, let's back up and get squashed. Get a bit closer. You're like an ant. It's on his foot.
Those of you who know Lady Gaga know that this is very probably performance art because she's very eccentric and everything she does has a message. I mean, she wore a meat dress for crying out loud. But when I watched this, it reminded me that everybody has a different perspective on things. Like I see Lady Gaga just doing a bit, and someone else sees Lady Gaga being under mind control. So there are so many different perspectives out there, and you got to take those into consideration and realize not everybody's right. And not everybody's wrong either. Hey, I just wanted to take a second and thank you for joining me for today's coffee talk. If you're having a good time, maybe you'd consider hitting that subscribe button and come back tomorrow because I'm making a new video every day. All right, let's watch some more stuff.
An leaked video that emerged on the internet, an alleged encounter between a man and an extraterrestrial being took place at an undisclosed location within a secret base in the United States. The encounter reportedly occurred during the nighttime, and due to the video's quality, the specific surroundings remain unidentified. It is believed that this encounter took place in 2017, although no official confirmation from the government has been provided. The video begins with a man standing a short distance away from what appears to be an extraterrestrial being, commonly referred to as a gray. Both individuals face each other and maintain eye contact for several moments. The extraterrestrial's physical features resemble typical depictions of grays: a hairless, pale grayish skin tone, large dark eyes, and a slight frame. The man remains calm throughout the encounter, showing no signs of distress or fear. Their interaction appears to be nonverbal, as no audible communication is captured in the leaked video. Despite this, their body language seems engaged and focused. The man and the extraterrestrial being exchange glances, perhaps attempting to convey meaning or understanding to one another. It is worth noting that any interpretation of their interaction remains speculative due to the lack of context provided. After a brief period of visual engagement, the man and the extraterrestrial reach out and firmly shake hands. This momentary physical contact suggests a mutual acknowledgement or agreement between the two parties. The handshake appears formal, devoid of any overt displays of emotion or excitement. Both individuals maintain a composed demeanor throughout the encounter, further adding to the enigmatic nature of the video. It is important to emphasize that the authenticity and veracity of this video remain unverified. As no official confirmation or statements have been released by the government or reputable sources, skepticism should be exercised when evaluating the footage. The leaked video serves as a piece of intriguing but unconfirmed evidence in the realm of alleged extraterrestrial encounters. As with any leaked material, its origin and intentions behind its release by an anonymous source raise additional questions about its credibility. The lack of supporting information or corroboration adds further complexity to the assessment of this alleged encounter. Without official documentation or reliable sources, it is impossible to draw definitive conclusions regarding the nature and significance of this encounter. Until further evidence emerges or official disclosures are made, this leaked video remains an unverified curiosity within the realm of alleged extraterrestrial encounters.
That one was pretty cool. I like how the alien looked. It's not as clean and smooth as a lot of the depictions are. It's kind of rough and muscly. You can see the tendons and things in his arms. It's not just like vinyl looking, but it's probably fake. Probably fake. As much as I hate to say it, it's probably not authentic. Just the way it's at night and it's well lit and they're just standing there talking. No.
Right. I'll tell you what, I had a CIA agent on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, and it was interesting. I said to him, what keeps you up at night? What have you learned through your past 20 years that genuinely keeps you up at night where you're like, I wish I never knew that, and I'm paralyzed with fear because of this secret that the American public doesn't know? He was like, there's a couple
That's a great question.
He said, the thing that I can share with you, this isn't the number one thing, but this is up there. He goes, the thing that I can share with you is our power grid. We can be put back to the Stone Age, like pre-colonial times, within 5 minutes. If our enemy gets at our power grid, he said our power grids are the most vulnerable power grids of any first world nation. People will able to hack them in a second, and you would have upwards of 100 million people in this country alone within 6 months. He was like, because I'm talking about no power, no water supply, nothing. For 6 months, we would not be able to get it up for at least 6 months. He goes, now we're working retroactively to upgrade these things.
Saying this?
Well, he said, it's pretty public knowledge to the powers that be. But he said that is a thing that absolutely we are in jeopardy of. He was like, it's not no one's going to us. No one's going to invade mainland USA. He goes, even like it might happen again, but it's not gonna debilitate you. He's like, we stop this shit all the time. We're really, weapons and all that. We're so far ahead of every other country. It's not even close.
Someone's going to come flip a light switch and we're fucked.
He said, but that's how they'll get you. There's no reason to have these weapons like this anymore because they can hit our power grid and then we're all and that's what we're vulnerable at, where other countries aren't. He said other countries have taken money and instead of building and tanks, they're upgrading their tech systems that they're impenetrable. So he was like, so that's the thing that keeps me up at night.
Now, you can't say that that's not a little scary. There's got to be some kind of backup plan, you'd think. I mean, they could just get in and, like flipping a switch, just turn off all of our electricity, and that takes away everything. Can't watch the news. You can't find out what's going on. Phones don't work. I mean, you have no internet. Nothing. Gone. Just boop. Wow. That sucks.
The Tartaria mud flood theory is a controversial hypothesis that suggests a catastrophic event took place in the 18th or 19th century, resulting in a massive flood of mud that covered entire cities and wiped out entire civilizations. According to this theory, the civilization of Tartary, which was once a powerful empire that covered a large part of the Eurasian continent, was destroyed by this event, and its existence was deliberately erased from history by the ruling elite. One of the main pieces of evidence cited by proponents of the Tartaria mud flood theory is the presence of mysterious buildings and structures in various parts of the world that seem to be older than the officially recognized timeline of human history. These structures, known as megaliths, are often made of large stone blocks that would have been impossible to move and erect using the technology available at the time they were supposedly built. Another piece of evidence cited by proponents of the Tartaria mud flood theory is the strange architectural features found in many old buildings in Europe and elsewhere. These features, such as strange windows and doorways, seem to have no practical purpose and are unlike anything found in modern architecture. Proponents of the theory argue that these features are remnants of an older civilization that was destroyed by the mud flood. There are also claims that the Tartaria mud flood theory is supported by geological evidence. Some researchers have pointed to the presence of sedimentary layers in certain regions of the world that seem to indicate a massive flood event took place at some point in the past. Other researchers have claimed that the soil samples from various parts of the world contain high levels of unusual substances, such as iridium, that are typically associated with meteor impacts or other catastrophic events. Proponents of the Tartaria mud flood.
I know I was redundant and repeated myself, but I wanted to get that mud flood theory in there, which kind of boggles my mind because it said it wiped out the entire civilization. Now, according to other stuff that I've listened to and watched, it said that the Tartarian, and the maps obviously, the Tartarian Empire was in the northern Eurasia, the continent. But there are buildings throughout the world that are accredited to these Tartarians. So the Tartarians didn't stay in the northern Eurasian area. They were everywhere. Wouldn't you think? So how did their entire people get wiped out by these mud floods if they weren't all in one spot? Was it global? It couldn't have been global. I mean, I don't know. Tell me what you think.
What if I told you that the Anunnaki of ancient Mesopotamia could be synonymous with the fallen angels known as the Nephilim mentioned in the biblical book of Genesis? The Anunnaki, mythological deities from ancient Mesopotamia, play a prominent role in the Epic of Gilgamesh, a renowned poem depicting the adventures of Gilgamesh, a tyrannical king, and Enkidu, a wild man created by the Anunnaki to divert Gilgamesh from his misdeeds. The epic concludes with Enkidu's demise. There are notable parallels between the accounts of the Anunnaki and the Nephilim mentioned in religious texts. Firstly, the Anunnaki are chthonic deities, associated with the underworld, while the Nephilim are depicted as fallen angels or demons. Secondly, the Anunnaki are offspring of Anu, the sky god, and a female named Ki. Although it remains unclear whether Kai was a human or a goddess, the absence of a cult of followers suggests she may have been a human. This corresponds to the biblical narrative where the Nephilim are born from the union of the sons of God, commonly interpreted as angelic beings, and the daughters of men, Genesis 6:1-4. Thus, the Anunnaki are the product of a connection between underworld deities and a potentially human female, while the Nephilim result from the union of fallen angels and human women. Thirdly, both the Bible and the Epic of Gilgamesh feature accounts of a worldwide flood. In the epic, a man named Utnapishtim is instructed by the god Enki, or Ea, to construct a massive boat and gather his relatives and young animals within it. After 12 days, the boat lands on Mount Nisir. Utnapishtim releases a dove, then a swallow, to find dry land, and finally a raven, which does not return, indicating the safety to disembark. He subsequently sets the animals free and offers a sacrifice to the gods. This story shares similarities with the biblical tale of Noah, which follows the narrative of the Nephilim in Genesis 6:11, 8:20. Although these two stories originate from a common source, they exist independently, implying that the biblical flood account was not copied from Gilgamesh, nor was Gilgamesh derived from the biblical narrative. Instead, they represent distinct retellings of a universally recognized event in the ancient world, the Great Flood. In both narratives, supernatural beings interact with humans during the period of the cataclysmic flood. The undeniable similarities between the Anunnaki and the Nephilim warrant exploration and consideration. The shared narratives of cataclysmic floods, the divine origins of both groups, and their interactions with humanity provide thought-provoking points of connection. However, it is crucial to approach this topic with an open mind and recognize that conclusive evidence may require additional archaeological, textual, and comparative studies. The mystery surrounding the relationship between the Anunnaki and the Nephilim continues to invite exploration and speculation, inspiring ongoing research into the fascinating intersection of ancient mythologies and biblical narratives.
So I know there's been a lot of information available on the Anunnaki for a while now, and I'm just barely starting to dip my toes in. I feel like I'm getting pulled in so many different directions and I'm waiting for it all to come together. So that's why I left this video in. I wanted to learn about it, and maybe you're learning about it as well, and we can figure it out together. We'll see how it goes. Well, it looks like we've reached the end. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.